you afraid for your life when you pulled that trigger?
Yes, I was afraid for my life. I was terrified for my life at this point.
After you pulled the trigger, what was the first thing that you noticed that there might be a problem?
When I heard a gasp, I heard a loud gasp. I banged on the door and called his name out, David, David, and he didn't answer me. Then I ran downstairs really quick, as fast as I could, got the hammer from the toolbox, and then I ran up the stairs again. I banged a hole in the door so I could get in there, and I stuck my left hand in there and undid the lock.
Once you got inside, explain to these folks what you saw in there.
When I got inside, I pushed the door open, and he was laying there in front of the door. And he was laying face down, and his face was to the right. To his right. I immediately checked for a pulse. I didn't feel a pulse. So then I found my phone, and I called 911.
That was Dr. Suzanne Mericle testifying in her trial last week. If you haven't been following this case, she was just found guilty yesterday of taking the life of her boyfriend, David Barron, in March of 2025. Now, she was found guilty of felony murder. Felony murder means that you did something that caused the death of someone else, whether it was intentional or whether it was premeditated. At the end of the day, it's like if you shoot into the air, that bullet hits someone, that could possibly be felony murder. It automatically, in the state of Georgia, carries a life sentence. Will she get life sentence with or without probation? We will know soon. But she was also found guilty of additional charges that I'm not going to get into, because at the end of the day, homegirl is going to be in prison for the rest of her life. Now, she testifies about the relationship and paints a very different picture. In other words, she shares that she was essentially a domestic violence victim, that once they signed on their house, that is when everything changed. She proceeds to find out that he was in a relationship per se with a woman in Moldova, where he was sending her money, $6,000 to $7,000 a month, allegedly, according to her, and paying for this woman's daughter's apartment in New Jersey. According to her, he was struggling to pay the new house that they had purchased. They were supposed to split it, $4,500 each. She says that a couple of weeks before this happened, he tells her, I need you to pay the difference this month. I need you to pay my portion. I don't have enough. And the arguments began because she was like, maybe if you would stop sending money to that woman, maybe you'd be able to afford to pay this. And that she was not going to pay more than what her half was, which was $4,500. She also goes on to share that she had messaged the lady, had told, the daughter that they were getting married, all of these things, and that was not true. She got caught lying to him multiple times. I believe it seemed like a control thing, but essentially she shared with him that the first time they had a domestic violence issue, she swore and told police that it was because she slipped and fell. But in the courtroom, she shares that he was trying to come in. He had gotten aggressive. He was trying to come in the door, and that he pushed her. When he pushed her, she hit her head and fell. There's text messages where she tells him that they came back and checked on her. We know that is not true. It was as if she was giving him reassurance in the text messages, because we do have those, that the person came, but she just told them, look, I slipped and fell, you're good. She also goes on to talk about the fact that she had her practice and she was trying to sell her practice, and he was pretty much trying to control her funds, trying to control where her retirement went. He wanted it completely invested into the house. She did not want that to happen. They argued all the time, and she said, I loved him. I wanted to fix things, and I just thought maybe he was being scammed. What's interesting about all of this, and this is just my personal opinion, I don't negate that they had a toxic relationship. I don't negate that she may have had an issue with him. I don't know if she was a victim of domestic violence, which is so unfortunate, because if she was, we can't say she was or she wasn't. But the fact of the matter is that I think there's a possibility that maybe he was just a mean drunk. That's where the arguments escalated, because I find it interesting that she would text the son. She even called the son one time where the door was closed. He was banging on the door. She was telling the son he's trying to get into the room, all of this. And the son was like, okay, he's probably going to go to a hotel. That's what he does. When he gets upset, he doesn't deal with it. He just goes to a hotel. The son even said that he talked to him. He sat him down and spoke to him and said that they were concerned about his drinking, concerned about the impact it was having on his health, concerned about the woman that he was sending money to. That the dad was pretty much like, that's none of your business, because he did not share with them the personal things, like his personal relationship issues that he may or may not have had. Now, I will say this. I find it very interesting that if you're terrified of someone, you would be okay with shooting a door, the lock, because I'd be scared if he has a gun, he's going to shoot me back. But that's just me. I've never been in that situation. What are your thoughts on this? The prosecution is really adamant that she was not a domestic violence victim, and they don't appreciate her saying these things about the relationship because he is not here to defend himself because she took his life. The next video, we'll go into the prosecution's cross-examination, and they bust out with the list of lies that she told police. Talk to you soon.